Labai malonu Jūs matyti prisijungusius prie verslo augimo programos, skirtos smulkiam ir vidutiniam Lietuvos verslui. Kas tik šiandieną prisijungėte prie šios verslo augimo programos renginių ciklo, primenu, kad visų viešų seminarų įrašus bei būsimus kitus programos renginius Jūs galite rasti Facebook paskyroje SEB Lietuvoje. 6 seminarų verslo augimo programą pradėjome seminarais apie inovacijos pozicionavimą tiksliniams klientams bei efektyvaus verslo modelio kūrimą, atsižvelgiant į veiklos tvarumo aspektus. Tad pirmų seminarų metu atsakėte į klausimus, kam yra kuriama paslauga ar produktas, bei kokį verslo modelį reikėtų pasirinkti jų pardavimui ar paslaugų suteikimui. Dabar svarbu rasti atsakymą ir į klausimą, o kogi siekime. Tikinti sėkmingo ir greito verslo augimo, būtina turėti aiškiai suformuluotus tikslus, nes tik turėdami aišku tikslą galima nusimatyti ir aiškius būdus jam pasiekti. Šiandien jau yra trečiasis verslo augimo programos seminaras. Ir jo tema – kaip išsikeltą tikslą paversti efektyviu veiksmų planu. Šios sesijos metu jūs išgirsite, kaip reikėtų įvertinti rinkos poreikį jūsų inovacijai. Išmoksite planuoti idėjos įgyvendinimą, bei sužinosite, į kokius klausimus turėtų atsakyti kiekvienas verslas, siekdamas identifikuoti pačius svarbiausius žingsnius inovacijos link. Šio seminaro lektorė Lena Ramfelt, antreprenerystės konsultantė, mentorė ir edukatorė iš Švedijos. Ji daugiau nei 14 metų dėstė Stanfordo universitete. Ji taip pat yra knygos Gear Up, Test Your Business Model Potential and Plan Your Path to Success bendra autorė. Tad ponę Leną ir pakvietėme į verslo augimo programą pasidalinti su jumis geriausiais metodais, ruošiant savo planą į verslo sėkmę. Dear Lena, welcome to SEB Growth Program. The stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Lena Ramfelt. Thank you so much for watching today. Before I give you my slide presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. So I usually start by saying that I am professionally raised at Stanford University. I had the pleasure of teaching entrepreneurship, innovation, marketing, and a little bit of leadership for 15 years at School of Engineering. When I came to Stanford to do my postdoc, and as you can hear, I am a Swede. So I was given a grant from the Wallenberg Foundations to go to Stanford and do research about what is it that makes Silicon Valley so successful. So I came as a pure researcher, but I left at something completely different. I was asked by a very nice professor if I didn't want to teach, and I kind of, I don't want to teach, because when you're a PhD student in Sweden, you have to teach and you have to do the accounting courses, the 101 accounting sessions, lectures. So I was very hesitant to do it, but he convinced me to test it, and that's where I would say that I found my passion. At heart, I am an educator. But what's interesting, when you teach at Stanford, you cannot only teach, you also have to do. So during those 15 years, I work with small and large, old and new, successful, not that successful, and complete failing companies. Because that was the expectations from the students, that you were actively involved in what was going on in the Valley. I also started to invest a little bit of my family's money. I'm not really rich afterward, but it was an interesting experience without any hesitation. But as a professor, and also in my role as working with companies, I read, and I sent this half to be provocative, so people kind of, okay, what is she saying? But half of it is actually true. I read so many lousy business plans. And my take on it is that it's too easy to write the business plan. You Google it, the business plan, and you download the template. You fill out the fields where you feel, oh, I know this, I have this. And you try to stay away from where you feel that you're weak. If you are an engineer, you love explaining the technology, the platform, maybe a little bit of the coding part. I have seen a lot of that in business plans from engineers. If you're an MBA, I see a lot of Excel spreadsheets. Some of them are, really impressive, but some are a little bit too far away from reality. So what I did was that together with my professor and with one of the Swedish guys that were part of starting Kaip, I wrote a book. It started as an orange book with a lot of text, but after a while, and this is what I'm most proud of that I did, is that we did a workbook for entrepreneurs. Those two books, the whole idea with those were, if you go through and really plan your business and take it in steps, take it slow, eventually you can write the business plan. But the missing part in too many business plans is the question about if there is overall a business opportunity or not. So we wrote those. We published them ourselves, and then Wiley came and asked, we want to buy the rights and publish the book. So they did. And that's pretty much when I left Stanford, because I was interested at that point to understand if the tools and the suggestions that I had written about in the two books, if they were of interest to anyone else, if they were of any relevance to companies outside of high tech and outside of the Valley. So I got an opportunity to work with a company in the US that works with creative entrepreneurs all around the world. And when you say creative entrepreneurs, people say, oh yeah, but aren't all entrepreneurs creative? And yes, they are, of course. But creative entrepreneurs in creative startup sense is entrepreneurs in the creative economy. And usually when I explain what that is that it's people that come having a different identity, but they want to make business because they are a film producer, they are a chef, they are an educator, they are an artist. So I traveled around the world and worked with entrepreneurs in so many different market spaces. And I then started to see what tools that we had introduced in the Green Book that also worked in other parts of the world. But during these 6 years, and this is what I will then spend the rest of my hour with you, what I did is that I started realizing that there are things that I need to include in a new book. So right now I am writing, it's just a binder so far with some new tools. Because there are two things that are really new in my new book, and that is that there are much more number crunching in my new book, and there is more embedded in the book also tools and exercises and examples for understanding how any company, large or small, new and old, can become do more of a positive impact on the planet and people, and try to shy away from negative impact and definitely avoid greenwashing. And that is what I want. I have tested this. I was in Jordan for a month. I just came back, worked with overall 101 female entrepreneurs and also some male, but primarily I was in Jordan to work with female entrepreneurs. So it's not in alpha mode anymore. It's more in beta mode. So I am in the middle of rewriting parts of the book. So usually when I do presentations and workshops, and I told the organizers about this, I have, since I left Stanford, I have become less and less of a professor giving lectures. Of course, everyone, people like me, we love having an audience, but I even more love to have participants. So even though I know that you can have any questions for me, give me suggestions, examples, I am seriously interested in any thoughts that comes up after during my presentation. And therefore, on the first slide that I'm going to share with you now, I do have my email address, and I really want to hear back from you. Because that can help me make a better book. And it's also interesting for me to understand how what I'm going to share with you, how that resonates with what's happening in your market space, in your country, in your part of the world. So here we go. So the old book was called Gear Up. The new book is called Gearing Up Next Gen. And the next gen is then, of course, next gen of entrepreneurs, but not only entrepreneurs, because I am using my framework also with established companies when they want to either bring a new offering, a new product solution to the market, or when they need to revisit something that they are already doing, or to use the Silicon Valley term, when they want to pivot. So that is next gen. But next gen is also the two things about next gen of entrepreneurs need to do more of number crunching and embedded in everything from the start. And I'm going to come back to this over and over again. And the next gen of entrepreneurs and successful business opportunities overall also need to take impact into consideration, because it's my firm belief, and I'm doing everything that I can to contribute that in 10-15 years, successful entrepreneurs have to be serious about making a positive impact. And it's not like anyone needs to have a ticket to Glasgow in order to do that. Any entrepreneur or anyone owning a business can do a lot of small things that are in their locus of control, so to speak. So here we go. Okay. I want to try. Yes. So here is my point of departure. So as I said, the first book was based on there's too many lousy business plans written, and many of them shouldn't have been written, but some of them could have been become successes much faster, much smarter, if they just had contemplated what if there is a business opportunity and what does that look like. I have in my new framework, I am presenting that as 4 questions. See if I can, yes. And here are the 4 questions. And those are the 4 questions that I will go through as much as I can during the 75 minutes that we have together. So there are 4 questions. So the first question that you need to answer, doesn't matter if you are a startup or if you are in an established company who needs to find something new for the market, have to reconsider what you're doing, or have to pivot. It all starts with answering the question, is there a gap in the market for my business? The second question, and when you have the answer of yes or even no, and you know, no, we don't because and you need to go and do some more work, then comes the next question, do I have a business potential? That's when you bring in whatever you have that is unique, that you can bring to the market. And the third question is, can I execute on it? And the fourth one is, do I know my next steps? And that is how you create a successful company, or how you increase the likelihood of creating a successful company. Success being that you develop something that is resilient and that has impact. Because I think it's important, and I work enough with companies that have venture capital or PE money in it, that I know that is success is so much more than having someone writing a check. A success for some companies can be that, no, I have a decent salary and I have a few employees. I want to make organic growth into my region, but I don't want to have any outside investors. So success is something that each and every entrepreneur defines for themselves. It's nothing that someone else has the luxury of defining for you. So I'm going to go through these 4 steps, but I want, the kind of there are 2 overarching messages that I do have with it. One is that there is no point in moving too fast up the slope here. You need to really find and answer the questions further down before you move up. And this is a challenge that I would say that both early stage entrepreneurs, but also established companies do have, but for different reasons. And that is, it's too easy to move too fast, especially up to execution. And because it's kind of complicated, it takes a lot of energy. It's very frustrating to figure out the answers to the 2 questions below. But again, trust me, or show me why I'm wrong by sending me an email. That if you move too fast, you are just going to lose energy, time, and unfortunately, probably a lot of money. So let's start with the first question. Is there a gap in the market for my business? And there are three things I will introduce to you, and there it's pain, customers, and end users. Usually when I talk about this one, I say that this is kind of where, if you have an MBA, and I know I have taught enough at them in MBA courses to know that this is where we have the MBA academic cases, where you presented with some numbers, some quality data, and you are to draw some conclusion. Is there a business opportunity here? What does it look like? So when you work on answering this question, still it's not your business opportunity, because you can very well find out that, yes, there is a gap in the market without any doubt, but you will also realize that it's not a gap that you can close, that you can make business out of. So let's go through that then. So I call it pain. Some call it problem, need, desire. But a lot of times when I use the word pain, people say, oh, does it have to hurt? No, it doesn't have to hurt. It can be, a pain can be, it's boring to commute to work. A pain can be, I don't know what to wear with the yellow sweater. I need guidance. Can I wear the red pants? So pain is so much more than a headache. The pain. So the first thing that I tell entrepreneurs that I work with, that you need to understand if there is a pain. And then and the only way of finding that out is to go outside. Because people outside, they have not drinking the Kool-Aid. But you and your co-founder and your team, you are already convinced that, yes, of course, there is a pain. But that doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you need someone else to also say, yes, I do have the pain here. So you need to leave the building or the dorm or the comfortable sofa and go outside and understand. I will come back. Is there a pain? But here is where I say that don't just try to understand the pain. Let's take the yellow sweater thing. You can understand that people, you can kind of, from conversations that you have with people might say, yeah, there is always, I am always uncomfortable, especially with the yellow sweater. I don't know, can I wear the blue or red pants, wherever? But stay with that, stick to that, and say, yes, there is definitely a pain, but what's the core pain? What's the pain of the pain? Why is it important for the people that you talk to wear something with the yellow sweater? Is it because they are worried that people will laugh at them? Is it because they are colorblind? That's a stupid example. But really nail it down to what's the core, what's the pain of the pain? Because what's interesting if you stay and really do that, you might come up with a new business opportunity that you didn't think about beforehand, and that is also much harder for anyone else to copy. So stick to the pain and find the core pain. Because I am also convinced that when you are in the conference room or in your dorm, you have figured out, and this is not scientifically, this is just my numbers, you have figured out 30% of what the pain is that you can kill for your customers. But there are 70% hidden in plain sight out there for someone to grab if you just, again, go and spend time with potential customers. You will realize so much more, and it doesn't cost you. You put on your comfortable shoes, and you bring a brown bag lunch, and you stand outside of Safeway, or you go to the gym, or you go and sit in a cafe and just do what I call participating observations. And that is, and I now I'm sure there are many of you kind of saying, yeah, she's talking about design thinking. Yes, it's design thinking, but it's design thinking that is not complicated at all. The only thing that you need to do is to be, I would say, brave enough to spend time with your potential customers, take the time to spend time with your customers, and make drawings, take field notes, take a few photos, capture what's going on video. The only thing that I want you to refrain from is to start selling your solution. Because where you are answering this question is nothing about your solution yet. You're trying to understand if there is overall a gap in the market. And by not having any assumptions, by not having any hypothesis, just going out and looking and paying attention, it might be that you realize that the solution that you had in mind when you were still in your conference room is not the right one, because the 70% is, you realize that there is something going on here that you haven't not included. And if any one of you who are watching this is interested, send me an email and I would be happy to share a Harvard Business Review article with you that is called An Anthropologist Walks into a Bar. Of course, you can just search it, but if you want me to give you a few suggestions why I love that article and I share it a lot, just send me an email. So think about the 70%, because it might be that in that 70% where you will realize the core pain that can later turn into that you will be able to increase the price or whatever you're going to offer, and that you will be able to have more loyal customers. When you are out there spending time with your potential customers, I want you to again try to get rid of as much of your preconceived notion as possible. When you're out there, try to put yourself in the shoes of your potential customers and say, what else could they do? What could they do with their time and with their money? Is instead of buying, my app that is going to suggest what they can wear with the yellow sweater, what could they do instead with that time that they otherwise could, if they not spend it on working with my app, putting all the clothes that they have in the wardrobe, in the app, what could they do with their time, and what could they do with their money? A potential kind of competitor to you is, of course, that they find some sort of a personal shopper that is on standby every time then when they're hesitant what to wear, they could have her to give them advice. So what else could they do? And this is a number that when you are deliberating if there is a gap in the market, never forget about the 1440. The 1440 is how many minutes that we have at our disposal every day. 24 hours times 60 minutes, that is 1440 minutes. That's the minutes we have for sleeping, eating, kissing, discussing, working, commuting, putting on the yellow sweater. We only have 1440 minutes at our disposal. How will you get into people's lives into those 1440 minutes? So think about that when you're doing participating observation. Some of, and usually we refer to those as unicorns, but when entrepreneurs are getting us to realize that we have a need that we hadn't thought about before. So we say, okay, I'm going to stop spending time on one thing because I really need to start doing this instead, whatever it is. But usually what I suggest my entrepreneurs to do is to see if they can embed themselves in the 1440 minutes So at the same time that they're doing something, they are also, so it's kind of increasing the density of the minutes. That is usually much easier to get people to do a little bit more during some minutes than saying, okay, I'm going to stop doing this so I can start using whatever solution that you want to provide to the customers. So remember the 1440. Because, and this is, and I know for those of you who are in a B2B situation, this doesn't really apply, but kind of apply. But this is what's happening in 60 seconds in an internet minute. This is what you're competing with. Even if you might have the best idea ever and people could really benefit from using it, they also, during a minute, they want to Snapchat, they want to watch Netflix, they want to scroll Instagram, they want to be on Tinder. So again, this is a good reminder of what you're competing with, at least both, I would say, time-wise, but also money-wise. Another thing that when you are out there understanding the gap is to pay attention to anxieties. That people might say that you have something really, they can really sympathize with, yes, there's a gap, yes, I have this pain, but cost, the time and the anxiety connected to learning something new. I just got a new iPhone, and it wasn't that hard to switch from the old to the new. But again, there was some anxiety if would I get all the contacts and all the apps and all the passwords and everything. So anxiety was definitely in play when, even though my husband was very nice and supported me in this, there was some anxiety, and the anxiety of the unknown. I know what I do have, I know my workarounds, but even if it sounds good, can I really trust something that I'm not familiar with? So therefore, don't shy away from understanding that your potential customers might opt for nothing. Saying, yeah, it's a good, I definitely have the pain, and you have conversations with them, and you are in agreement. But even if you have 50 people say, yeah, I definitely have that pain, they still not going to buy from you. And I can see some of you now kind of, okay, but what can I do? I just want to throw that in to what you have to work with in order for you to have realistic expectations of what's going to happen, and how you answer the question, is there a gap in the market? The other one is, so that was the pain, and now we have customers and all the others. Because when you talk about, so when I talk about customers, I say customers are the ones who are going to pay you. Write you a check if you are in the US, swipe the card, send you money via PayPal, or give you cash. That's customers. So every time someone asks, okay, so who is your customer? You answer with, that's the one who is going to pay me. But we can make it much, much more complicated. So first, the question is, who are your customers? And that is the one who is going to pay you. But the next question is your customer also your end user? And that is the one who is paying, is that also the one who is going to use? If it is, it's kind of, it's simpler, but you need to understand them first as a customers, as in how they buy, and then how they're going to use it. If the answer is, yeah, no, there is someone buying it, really easy example is, of course, parents and kids. Parents buy the Xbox and the games, the kids are using it. If you have a business, or if you think you have there's a gap in the market where you have both customers and end users, you need to understand what's the pain of the customers. Why would they buy? But then also, what's the pain of the end users? Why do parents buy Xboxes? Why do kids use the Xboxes? Because you are reliant to that both of them, that they're killing pains for both of them. Otherwise, they won't buy. Because if the kids are not using, the parents will stop buying. If the parents don't think that the Xbox game is a good way of spending time, they will stop buying the games for the kids. I also added the beneficiaries here because I am fortunate enough to work with social entrepreneurs around the world. And beneficiaries are, of course, a part of who they also need to understand in order to figure out who are my customers, who are my end user, but also what's the pain and who are my beneficiaries. But we can make it more complicated than this. And this is especially if you are in a B2B or a B2G situation, is to understand if you're selling to someone else and that someone else is going to sell to an end customer, my suggestion is that you learn as much as you can about your customers' customers, because if you can continuously show to your customers that you maybe know even more about their customers, they will keep on buying from you. So if you are in a B2B, you cannot stop and say, okay, but I do understand everything about my customers. You need to continuously be aware of what's happening to their customers. And that might be that you need to do help your customer acquisition. You need to do marketing. You need to gather market intelligence about the customers. And I can assure you that your customers will be more loyal if you show and share that market intelligence about their customers. Also, this is particular interest for B2B is that when you're selling to a B, you have to be aware that there are different types of buyers in that B, in that company that you're selling to, where the arguments for why they should buy from you and how they buy and what the process is from buying is different. If you go to the economic buyer, they want to know what's the return of investment, what will it cost, are there any learning costs, do I need to buy any other equipment? If you go to the technical buyer, we can call it the infrastructure buyer, he or she will ask, okay, if we install whatever you're suggesting, our servers, what about security? What about safety? Do we need to hire any new technical or send our technical team on any courses? And how much would, of course, it all goes back to payment. You also have, and this goes for also, of course, if you are selling B2C, business to customers directly, there are always people influencing a decision. So that even if they are not customers, they're not going to sign the check or they're not going to use it, they will influence the decision. And of course, then you have end users. And in a B2B situation, I worked a few years ago with a hospital. I mean, there were, we had all of these. We had economic buyer with the financial department, we had technical buyers. This was about a scheduling tool. It was when people were moving from using pen and pencils and flip charts kind of to schedule appointments, to when they were to move it to online. There was a lot of influencers with the union and patients in organizations, and we had different types of end users. We had the nurses, we had the head nurses, we had the doctors. We had, so understanding is already at the point, long before you even consider execution, understanding the who are involved, realizing it's more than the customers, understanding who everyone else that is involved, and also paying attention to the pains, that the different types of pains, because they all have different pains, is going to make it easier for you to decide, do I have a business potential? Because now, so the first question was, is there a gap in the market? And then that's why I said this is kind of, it could be there is a gap, but there is nothing I can do about it. Now, in the second question is, do I have a business potential or not? So, and when you move to the second question, you should have some sense of, I probably, it should at least not be a flat out, no, I don't have anything, because then I want you to stay in that first step and say, why isn't there a gap? Was I looking at the wrong customers? Maybe I thought the end users were customers. Is there someone else? Can I understand the core pain or the pain differently? Do I need to go to a different market segment? Stay there. Stay. If it's a flat out no in the first question, stay there, because you will save time and be less frustrated when you move to the second question. Do I have a business potential? Because here is where it gets personal. Now it's about you and your venture. And there are two things that I want to talk a little bit more about, and that is painkiller and delight. So the first one is, so the painkiller with delight is, I want you here to think about how you can design something where you are truly unique, not only different. Purposely, I make a distinction between being different and being unique, because different, it's much easier to copy for someone else. It will lead you into what is sometimes referred to as a red ocean, where you need to kind of steal businesses from other companies. But if you say, I'm going to offer something that is truly unique, it will be easier for you to charge more, to get more customers, and get more customers to be loyal. And again, this is much easier to put in motion even before you have started doing any execution, because so far you haven't made any promises, you probably haven't even started doing, hopefully not some sort of a fundraising campaign. So everything, you can do whatever you want. That's the good news with being in the stage of answering question 2. So there are 3 things. So I talked about pain, and now we talk about painkiller. That is, how are you going to kill the pain? How are you going to make sure that the person who has that yellow sweater, that he or she is only matching, putting on the right color of trousers to wear with the yellow sweater. So the first question, of course, and this is, I know that this is for most of you, that this is where you all started. You know, you had an answer to, yes, I can do this. This is what I want to do. I want you to really put down on a flip chart, on a white wall or something, what in detail, what is going to be included in, and I call it solution. It could be a product, a service, a solution, or an experience. It doesn't matter. I will call it solution. All the what's in your solution, everything that you're going to do, and then equally detailed in terms of how you're going to do it. How are you going to deliver it to your customers in terms of how they will buy, and also how they will use it. So the how, the what, and the how. And this is where, unfortunately, many business opportunities are not brought to where they could be, because the team behind them stop kind of, okay, this is the what, and then that's the how. But I'm going to come back to this. I want you to take it to the third level and say, how am I going to delight my customers? How am I going to be truly unique? And for some of you, you might now say, oh yeah, I know what Lena is talking about, is the unique selling proposition, the USP. And I am definitely not talking about the USP, because no one cares about your USP except you and your team. I'm talking about delight. So if this is the USP, the unique selling proposition, this is the delight. In the eyes of your customers, how are you unique? What is it that your customers and your end users, when they talk about your solution, why they buy it, why they use it, what is it that they are talking about? What are they referring to? What are they sharing with other potential customers? And you can't imagine how often I am working with companies where the USP is here, this, and they kind of, yeah, people are buying, people are using because of this. But really, why they buying and using is somewhere over here. And at the end of the day, in terms of revenue, this is what counts. So stay away. Try to stay away from this USP, and instead be bold enough and ask yourself, what, in the eyes of our customers, how are we truly unique? And again, go into it with an open mind. For those of you who already have customers, it's easy. Just ask them, or pay attention to what they share on social media, in conferences, in presentations, about why they buy and use something from your company. And let me go back to this one. And when you are figuring out your painkiller, your solution with delight, use something like this, where you say, okay, this is a day in the life of my customers and end users. This is how they will buy. This is where they will buy. This is how they first get to know about us. This is then what they will probably figure out. They will compare us with potential competitors. For those of you who have online data, I mean, Google Analytics is wonderful to understand what's going on in the life of your customers, and how can you make it more fun, intriguing, faster, smarter to just buy from you. And the same thing with the using part. How can you make it more easy, fun, rewarding, something to use it? And then so that when the using cycle, when they have used your solution and for one reason or another, they need to buy again, the loop is much smaller, much faster. They don't even contemplating any, that they could do. They can spend money on your competitors, or they can spend their time doing something else. It's kind of just a small, fast loop, and they back to using. And this is, and if you pay enough attention to the delight in the eyes of your customers, how are you unique? It could be that you are offering something that is quite similar to one of your competitors, but the buying, people can buy it in a different place. People it's fun to buy, even if they opt out and then decide, no, I will not, but they had a fun time just being in the buying cycle, even though they don't complete the buying. So don't, be open-minded. Maybe it's the delight has something with how people pay in the business model. I don't know. It's totally, it totally depends on the market space. And for those companies that I will be fortunate to have one-on-one conversations with, I'm really looking forward to dig deeper into your specific case to see what we can come up with in terms of buying and using. But, don't stay true to the core pain. That's the core pain that you wanna kill for your customers. Okay. So then we have the third question. So let's say now you have answered yes and kind of yes maybe on the first two. Then comes the third question, and that is, can I execute on it? Because it might be that you have found a gap in the market and you have a painkiller with a lot of delight, but then comes the question of execution. Can I really do something about it? And there are at least 5 things to consider when you are in the execution mode. It's customer acquisition, business model, partners, worthy rivals, and teams. So customer acquisition or sales. And this is usually when I say I blush when I talk about customer acquisition, because I know that one thing that I didn't do a good enough job of when I was teaching at Stanford or in other universities too, is that I didn't talk enough about sales with my students. And at the end of the day, and most of you already know that 100% of your revenue comes from sales or customer acquisition. It's the same thing. And even though we don't do enough good job of preparing students who have a desire to start their own company to understand the importance of sales. So that I think I'm trying to make up for those years now by talking a lot about sales when I work with companies. But I mean, most of you know about the sales funnel. So I just want to mention it here, that you need to understand that you have to reach out to many more potential customers than will actually buy from you. So if you have, in this example, you reach out to 250, you might end up with 7 customers. You have a conversion of 3%. If you're going to sell via Facebook ads, that 3% is a pretty good conversion. But I want to just remind you that the most important number in this funnel is not the what's on the top level. And of course, if you go and Google this, you can get much more sophisticated funnels than just one with 3 different layers. But the most important number here is the third, the bottom one. How many customers do you end up with? So when you are planning, when you're doing customer acquisition, your strategy related to sales, I want you to, of course, create a funnel starting from the top. But when you have trickled it down to the third level, I want you to go back and ask yourself, how can I reduce the amount of potential customers I have at the top level? How can I look for, how can I find not only leads, but qualified leads? Qualified meaning that those are ones that where the probability is higher that they are buying. And the next question is, how can you avoid leakage? How can you stay in touch with your potential customers without them feeling that, oh, now Lena is calling again and you want to sell? Maybe you share some market data. Maybe you invite your potential customer to a breakfast seminar where you have an interesting speaker. Anything that you can do in order to keep them excited about that, you know, being in the buying cycle and make it easier for them to decide to buy. So spend more time on figuring out how many customers that you want to have at the end of the next 3 months or 6 months than thinking about how can I reach out to many, especially for those of you who are in the early stage, because I'm sure that you will make mistakes. So reaching out to too many in the beginning might be a mistake. Pick fewer, make the funnel a little bit smaller, make mistakes so that when you know that all the kinks, you have taken care of those, and when you reach out to the many, you know how to do that. And I don't have time to talk a lot about that, but you need to do customer acquisition. You need to sell before you can start doing marketing. Absolutely, because that's how you learn what you will use in a branding campaign. In a marketing campaign, you don't know that until you have customers. So start with selling and then follow up with marketing. Pay attention to how long your sales cycle is. If you are selling lemonade at Waikiki Beach, your sales cycle is maybe 30 seconds. If you're selling telecom equipment, it might be 2 years. And the sales cycle is, of course, important because you need to plan activities depending on, so that you are in the minds of your potential customers for 30 seconds or 2 years. But it's also important because when you are to budget your customer acquisition cost, all the costs that you have to take on in order to get a few customers. Business model for when I was in academia, all the prominent professors that were doing research about business models, they have their own definition of business model. For me, it's really easy. It's just happy customers minus cost. And all the costs you need to keep customers happy, you should have those. Other costs, don't have them. So there are 4 things you need to pay attention to when you think about your business model. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to talk about that. But the first one is you need to decide, and I would say that this is the most important one. Are you going to do cost-based pricing or value-based pricing? Both of those pricing strategies are based on, of course, you need to cover your costs. That's a hint here, already by now, you should have in all the decisions, in the 2 decisions that you have already made, you should have been paying attention to numbers and to cost. You need to have an understanding that, what do I need in order to cover my costs? cost of acquisition and cost of goods sold. And also if you have any cost in order to build your painkiller and maintain your painkiller. All of those are costs, and of course overhead costs. But then comes the difference. If you go for cost-based pricing, you say, okay, these are the costs that I'm going to, I need to cover, and then I'm going to add a margin based on pretty much the same margin that other companies in the same market space, selling the same solution as I do sell. So it will be pretty much the same thing. So that's cost-based pricing. But, and this is where I suggest that all of you invest 2-3 hours just to think about it, is yes, in the value-based pricing strategy, you still need to cover your cost, of course, but then the question you ask yourself, what is the perceived value for customers? What is the perceived value for my customers to have the core pain killed with my solution? And that could be that you cover your cost and you can increase your price with 1,000% or with 500% or with 100%, because cost has nothing to do with your price tag if you do value-based pricing. Too few entrepreneurs are at least try in front of the whiteboard to do value-based pricing. Value-based pricing takes that you have confidence in what you're selling, but I think more companies could have that confidence if, again, they spend enough time understanding the core pain of their customers and then develop a solution, a painkiller with delight, because the perceived value is in how you kill the pain of the core, kill the core pain with delight. So you find your price tag, and my suggestion is that it's easier to do a value-based pricing if what you're selling is on the brink of being a solution or an experience. If it's a commodity or a product where it's easier for your customers and end users to compare with others, it's harder, because they might say, okay, yeah, but that, if I buy this pen, it costs $1, but if I buy this pen, it costs $10, but I really just need a pen for my shopping list, so I buy the $1 pen. So think about, even if you're selling a product, is there anything that you can do to move it up to become a service? Maybe you can do something where just how you present it in your business model. Maybe it could be something in how they buy it, or how they upgrade it, or something. Again, it depends on where you are, what market space that you are in, and what you're selling. But think about this. I strongly suggest that you think about this. Then, of course, there are revenue models that you can mix and match as much as you want. But don't just say, okay, this is a one-time pay. Think about if there are ways that you can build in your business model so that your customers might not pay that much each time, but they pay much more often. So bringing in a little bit of number crunching, where you understand not talking about revenue per customers, but talking about lifetime value of a customer, might change your perspective on how you're going to ask and how much you're going to ask your customers to pay each time. Add zeros. So going back to the painkiller with delight, I talked about what and how. I want you to go back to that one and think about, what is it that I am currently doing or I'm planning to do in my solution, in the what and how, that is not really contributing to the delight. In the eyes of my customers, no one really cares about those two things, those what's, and that I am how that I have customer support 24 hours or something, and just remove those. From a business model point of view, it's kind of add zeros. You don't need it because no one cares. No one is paying attention to it. You know, you might say, oh, it's really great. And one of part of our USP is that we have 24-hour customer support. But if no one cares, you shouldn't have 24-hour customer support. So zeros. Don't in your Excel, don't try to just reduce with 10% or 20%, cut it. Because you know, if you then in 6 months realize, oh, I probably need it, you can just add it back to the Excel. Okay, so that was customer acquisition and business model really fast. Now we come to the last part of the execution, and that's partners, worthy rivals, and team, where I say keep your team close, but your partners closer, and what I will refer to as worthy rivals as even closer. So let's start with partners. You should have partners for everything that's any other entity, organization, company that they can do better than you can. Let them do it. It's nothing wrong with have partners. It's not that, you know, it shows that you don't have self-confidence. It shows that you're smart. So bring in partners for two different reasons. One is because the partners can add delight in the eyes of the customers, you know, delight. So they can grow the delight, or you bring in partners because they can help you grow your revenue. And some of them you might now think, okay, yeah, but what about if I have a partner that can do both? That's excellent. You just call them strategic partners. Strategic partners, they contribute both to delight and revenue. And if you know who your customers are, what their core pain is, then you will know carefully. You should be assured that you share a vision, you share an idea for a future state, and your missions are aligned. So you are contributing to growing something. You're in agreement that what it is that you want to grow. Consider amount and size. Of course, I do. When I work with high-tech companies, their favorite partner is Apple. I try to get them to shy away from Apple, especially when they are in early stage, because it's better to pick a smaller, maybe younger, maybe an up-and-coming company, because they will also see much more of a benefit with partnering with you. So partnerships is based on a give-get. What is it that you can give to a partner, and what is it that you want to get from a partner? And I have a tool that I use, and I would and it's interesting because this I call it the give-get partnership matrix, and that is one of the tools where that is a lot of time entrepreneurs come back again and again and want us to have conversations about the that matrix. But it's pretty much, this is not rocket science, but the matrix is very much kind of, it's a process in 3 steps, where the first step is kind of align expectations. So you have a shared understanding with your potential partners of, this is what I want to get from the partnership, this is what I can give to the partners. And don't underestimate the value of making your partner look good. Because if you pay attention to and really try to make them look good, ask them, how can I make you look good? How can I contribute to your success? They will stay loyal. They will appreciate that you take, because they know that you don't have a lot of time and money, that they will, that you are actually devoting time to understand how you can contribute to what they trying to do. So that's about partners. And again, if you know your customers and you know your the core pain that you're going to kill for them, and you have reasonable expectations of your painkiller, you will have the confidence to bring in the right partners. Worthy rivals. I have stopped talking about competitors because because it's kind of boring, and especially because when I work with entrepreneurs and they introduce the competitors, what they're doing, and I'm sure that most of you have seen those slides, either they are presenting the competitors in a slide where you have different rows and columns, and my entrepreneurs company, they have stars in all the different categories with features, and none of the competitors do have. Or if they do a they put on the axis different types of things, how they measure the competitors. The competitors are down here, and the company I work with are somewhere up here, which is, I know it's supposed to look like that, but it's of less use when you're trying to really understand who are you competing with. In the beginning, I shared with you that you need to understand what your customers and end user could do with their time and their money. And that's where I think that instead of talking about competitors, you should kind of acknowledge, who are my worthy rivals? Who really, seriously, who could they turn to and spend time and money with instead? Acknowledge that you have rivals, worthy rivals. And when you kind of acknowledge, yes, this is the reality, my customers could go, instead of using Xbox, they could use Sony. What is it that you can copy, adopt, adapt, and innovate based on what your worthy rivals are doing? Because anything is up for grabs. So be honest with yourself and your team and say, okay, let's sit down, and who are our worthy rivals in terms of time and money? And what is it that we can copy, adopt, adapt, and innovate based on what they're doing, how they are doing, and how, in the eyes of their customers, how they are unique. And I'm sure that there are things that you can do with your painkiller with delight that will increase the value and the interest from more customers. But don't be too worried about if you keep on calling them competitors, or if you call them worthy rivals, because focus, your job is focusing on killing the core, the pain of your customers and end users by delighting them. And if you keep on focusing on that, your competitors will just, they will disappear. You won't see them because you don't have time to focus on them. And as long as your customers are happy what you are offering them, and you acknowledging that you are grateful that they are your customers, it's good enough. So when people say, we should be customer centric or customer focused, yes, absolutely. Don't spend too much time and don't lose too much sleep on thinking about your potential competitors. Okay, so team, you have to have a team, even if you are the sole founder, or maybe you have a co-founder, but eventually you will have to have a team. And there are two teams, two stages of team. So the first phase is the garage phase. And then you need people on your team that have startup experiences. And that is because if you bring in someone, let's say that you are in the food delivery, you're setting up a food delivery company, and you bring in someone that has from Uber Eats, and you say that's excellent because she knows everything about food delivery. Yes, but she comes from a company where there are already established procedures, there is a salary, there is maybe working hours decided, and there's vacations. You need people that are ready. They do understand that one day I might need to go to FedEx something. The next day I need to tell my family I need to work the whole weekend. I need to I have lemons, I need to make lemonade. We don't have the resources, we don't have the equipment. What do I do? So don't underestimate a startup experience. I know that you don't have a lot of money, so you can't pay comparative salaries. You need to find other ways to incentivize the people that you bring in and bring on to the team in the garage phase. Could be with equity, could be with stock options, could be future revenue share, I don't know. Yes, and core competencies of starting a business. Then comes the growth phase. That is when you need time to introduce, there needs to be structure, there needs to be processes, there needs to be job description, there will be an organization chart with maybe business cards. You bring on people who say, oh, I want to have vacation, I want to work 9 to 5. And a lot of times, it's not that unusual that the person who is usually the founder, one of the founders, who was the CEO in the garage phase, need to step into another position at the growth stage, because the expectations and the role description of the CEO is going to look quite different in the growth phase than in the garage phase. And it's not that rare that the co-founder who was given the CEO job in the garage phase is kind of relieved that he doesn't have to do that job anymore. So think about, when you think about the team in terms of your execution, think about it as first you need a garage phase team, and then you need a growth phase team, and they look quite different. Okay, so if you now have answered some yes, maybe one or a small maybe somewhere here, you have the fourth and the last question, and that is, do I know my next steps? Do I know I need to take action? Because it starts tomorrow. And what is it? And there are 5 things that any companies, when they think about the next step, needs to actually do. And there is this, I have them all here because I realized that I was going to run out of time. And so, they are in no particular order. But because you have done the number crunching. It will be easy for you to do the projections, not for just the first and second year, but maybe for the third up until the fifth year of how will the revenue grow, how will the gross profit margin change. It will also be easy to, I'm going to take plan of action last, but then you also need to set goals that are reachable, goals that are communicable, and goals that can be measured, so that it's easy for you to communicate to your team saying, this is what we're going to do, and this is the KPI, the key performance indicators that we will use in order to assess that we have reached the goals. Especially for the early stage companies, I say, forget about the balance sheet. Forget about making a profit and loss statement for the future. You have your projection, because what's most important for you right now for the coming 12 to 18 months is cash flow. Because you might have come up with the most brilliant business model with an exceptionally interesting painkiller with delight that you will eventually be able to charge a lot of money for. But if you don't have cash to survive until you have that solution in place and you have, started acquiring customers, there is no point. You will not fail in the beginning because of lack of a profit and loss. You will fail because you don't have enough, cash flow, kind of cash in, cash out. And when I work with cash flow with my companies, it's too easy for too many to say, okay, I cash flow negative too many months. What I'm going to do is I will get a loan from bank, or I will get outside investors. But that is not where this conversation starts in order to get more month you being cash flow positive. It starts with, what is it that you can do to bring in more revenue earlier? Is that because you can change the from one-time pay or to subscription, or you can get people to prepay a little bit? What is it that you can do in order to reduce cost or push cost forward so that you get revenue from your customers until you need to pay your suppliers? All of that is where you start. So you work on your cash flow internally. And then when you realize, no, there are still some months where you need to get external money, that's when you go to SEB, or you go and find business angels or VCs to help you. But the longer you can wait to bring in outside money, the better it is, because you continue to add value to your company. And embedded in all of this is, as I said, the numbers. Always do numbers, and that is the only. And I have a blog called Lena in the Trenches, and I have one blog where I talk about I love design thinking, but there is also a curse with design thinking, and that is that numbers are not included in design thinking. And I strongly encourage you, when when you put on your comfortable shoes and you're out there doing participating observation, and put numbers, as much numbers that you can on how big is the pain, where is the pain, how many do you see that have the pain, anything that is in terms of numbers, and ask people how much time or money do you spend already on alleviating the pain. That's where it starts, and then numbers should follow you in all of the 4 steps. But the other thing, I want you to also, in all the 4 steps, ask yourself, are you circular enough? Are you, as much as you can, avoid doing negative impact on people and planet? And are you trying as much as you can to do a positive impact on people and planet? Because again, I am so convinced that in 10 years, in order to be a successful and an impactful entrepreneur, you need to already now start thinking about the circularity. So that's where you have the 4 questions. You have, and it's kind of a little bit of a kind of a crash course or something, but how I work with getting early stage companies, but also established companies to think about their next business opportunity and how to do that in, I would say, a structured way where I bring in all my experience, but also trying to get entrepreneurs, because you're always crushed for time. The 1440 applies to you too, so that you don't invest in something where you haven't done the work that needs to be done before you can make a decision. So it's been a pleasure to spend time with you. You have my email address. I'm looking forward to any questions, suggestions, comments, concerns, I don't agree with you. I have 2 kids and 1 husband, so I am very much used to people not agreeing with me. So again, thank you so much for spending time with me, and have a really great day. Bye, guys.